In the heart of Seattle, where skyscrapers gleam, Nathan Keller built a cookware empire. But his wife Laura, brilliant and ruthless, betrayed him by taking over the company. Nathan lost everything? Or did he? In this tale of betrayal, revenge, and rebirth, he uncovers a secret plan that will change everything. Will he succeed in reclaiming his name and destroying those who betrayed him? Find out how this drama unfolds. Seattle, 2025. The Artisan Cook headquarters towered over the Puget Sound, its glass facade catching the dawn light like a polished blade. Inside, the conference room thrummed with anticipation. Executives in tailored suits murmured over coffee, their tablets glowing with charts and projections. At the head of the sleek, white table stood Laura Keller, 38, her wine-red silk dress a stark contrast to the room's minimalist decor. Her presence was magnetic, her voice a practiced blend of authority and charm as she flipped through slides on the massive screen. "Gentlemen, ladies," Laura began, her smile sharp. "Our new knife line is set to dominate. Projections show a 20% market share increase by Q3. The room nodded approvingly, but her expression shifted as she pulled up a new slide, a grainy photo of packaging samples. "But we have a problem." All eyes turned to Aiden Reed, a 26-year-old designer seated near the back. His face drained of color as Laura's gaze pinned him like a specimen. "Aiden," she said, her tone ice-cold, "care to explain why the packaging dimensions you sent to manufacturing were off by 3 centimeters? Aiden fumbled with his tablet, his voice barely audible. I double-checked those measurements, Miss Keller. There must be some mistake." Laura's laugh cut through the silence, sharp and unforgiving. "A mistake? Your error will cost Artisan Cook $1.2 million in rush fees and lost revenue." She leaned forward, her diamond hairpin glinting under the lights. "This isn't a startup anymore, Aiden. We don't do amateur hour. Clear your desk by noon." The room froze. Aiden's throat bobbed as he tried to speak, but Laura had already moved on, advancing to the next slide. "Let's continue. Sarah, the social media campaign?" Nathan Keller, 42, sat in the corner, his dark blazer unbuttoned, his expression unreadable. He'd founded Artisan Cook 18 years ago in a cramped Capitol Hill apartment, sketching designs on napkins, forging a cookware empire from sheer grit. Now, most employees saw him as a relic consultant, not visionary. Laura, his wife of a decade, had become the company's face, her marketing genius propelling Artisan Cook into glossy magazines and influencer kitchens. But Nathan saw the cost, quality sacrificed for flash, integrity traded for headlines. As Aiden gathered his things, hands trembling, and slipped out, Nathan's jaw tightened. He built this company on craftsmanship, not public executions. No one met Aiden's eyes, no one dared. The meeting droned on, Laura's voice weaving promises of growth, but Nathan's mind cataloged the scene, the fear in the room, the casual cruelty, the empire he'd created slipping into something he no longer recognized. When the meeting ended, executives filed out, their enthusiasm forced. Nathan lingered, watching Laura collect her notes with the precision of a general. "That was unnecessary," he said quietly once they were alone. Laura glanced up, almost surprised to find him there. "What, firing Aiden?" "Please, Nathan, when did you get so soft?" She snapped her laptop shut. "That kid cost us over $1 million. He's lucky I didn't sue him for negligence." "He made a mistake," Nathan countered, his voice steady. "One that quality control or his supervisor should have caught." Laura rolled her eyes, her heels clicking as she moved to the door. "This isn't your little workshop anymore. It's a business. Grow up, Nathan." He stood slowly, straightening his blazer. "You're right. It is a business." Something in his tone made Laura pause, her hand on the doorframe. But Nathan was already leaving, his steps measured, his mind racing. Their home in Queen and was a study in calculated elegance, glass walls, steel accents, a view of the Sound that screamed success. It was a showcase, not a sanctuary. That evening, Nathan stood at the kitchen island, his movements precise as he chopped vegetables with one of his original Artisan Cook knives. The blade, a relic of the company's early days, sliced effortlessly, a reminder of the craft that had launched his empire. Cooking was his refuge, a tether to the man he'd been before the boardrooms and betrayals. Laura appeared in the doorway, already changed into silk loungewear, a crystal wineglass dangling from her fingers. "Pasta again," she sighed, sliding onto a bar stool. "Risotto," Nathan corrected without looking up. "Same difference." She swirled her wine, her gaze distant. "God, you should have seen Aiden's face today. Like a kicked puppy." Nathan's knife paused, then resumed its rhythm. He was a good designer. Mediocre at best, Laura scoffed, taking a sip. We'll have 10 better candidates by tomorrow. That's not the point. Then what is, Nathan? Her voice sharpened, the familiar edge creeping in. Enlighten me. He set the knife down, meeting her eyes. The point is building something that lasts. Something with integrity. Laura laughed, the sound brittle. Spare me the craftsman speech. Integrity doesn't sell copper-plated pans to TikTok moms. It sold them for the first 10 years, Nathan said, his voice low. Before the influencer deals, before the corner cutting, before we got rich, you mean? Laura's eyes narrowed. You used to have fire, Nathan. Now you're just, what? A guy who chops onions and dreams of the good old days. The air between them crackled. Nathan picked up the knife again, his movements deliberate. Careful, Laura. You forget who built this. Built? She stood, her wineglass clinking against the counter. I made it a brand. You'd still be peddling pots at farmers' markets if I hadn't come along. Nathan's gaze didn't waver. Is that what you tell yourself? It's the truth. Laura's smile was cold, calculated. The board knows it too. We've been discussing the future of Artisan Cook's leadership. Your consultant role? It's evolving. Nathan's expression remained impassive, but his pulse quickened. Evolving how? Let's just say we're modernizing. Laura turned, her silk robe trailing as she left the kitchen. Dinner's late again, isn't it? I'll order sushi. Alone, Nathan stared at the half-chopped vegetables, the knife still in his hand. The storm he'd sensed was no longer brewing, it was here. He set the blade down with care, his mind shifting from risotto to retribution. Laura thought she'd outplayed him, but she'd missed one critical detail. Nathan Keller never entered a fight unprepared. The Artisan Cook boardroom was a cathedral of ambition, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing Seattle's skyline like a trophy. The next morning, Nathan Keller entered with the calm of a man who'd already seen the battlefield. At 42, his presence was understated. Dark blazer, no tie, eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. The board members, a mix of old allies and Laura's new loyalists, shifted uncomfortably as he took his seat at the table's far end. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. Laura Keller stood at the head, radiant in a tailored white suit, her auburn hair swept into a flawless updo. At 38, she was the embodiment of corporate charisma, her every gesture honed for maximum impact. Beside her, Olivia Grant, head of marketing and Laura's right hand, tapped at a tablet, her expression smug. The screen behind them glowed with Artisan Cook's logo, a prelude to the execution Nathan sensed was coming. Good morning, everyone, Laura began, her voice smooth as polished steel. Before we dive into Q3 projections, I'd like to address a structural change critical to Artisan Cook's future. Her gaze swept the room, deliberately avoiding Nathan. Our brand has evolved. We're no longer just a cookware company, we're a lifestyle empire. To sustain this, we need leadership aligned with our vision. Nathan leaned back, his face impassive, though his pulse ticked faster. He built Artisan Cook from a single prototype in a rented garage, pouring 18 years into perfecting blades and pans that chefs swore by. But Laura's marketing had turned his craft into a social media juggernaut, and now, he suspected, she was ready to erase him entirely. Olivia stepped forward, her heels clicking. Market research shows our audience craves innovation, digital campaigns, influencer partnerships, bold aesthetics. Traditional approaches, she paused, glancing at Nathan, don't resonate anymore. Traditional. Nathan's voice was quiet, cutting through the room's hum. You mean quality? Durability? The things that made Artisan Cook a name. Laura's smile tightened. Let's be direct, Nathan. Your role as senior design consultant is outdated. Your focus on craftsmanship, while nostalgic, is a liability. We're proposing to eliminate your position, effective immediately, and shift design oversight to the creative team. The boardroom stilled. Nathan's eyes flicked to the directors, some avoided his gaze, others nodded to Laura. He'd seen this coming, but the audacity of it, the public dismantling of his legacy, burned hotter than expected. You're firing me, he said, not a question. Modernizing, Laura corrected, her tone saccharine. This is about growth, not sentiment. A board member, Richard Tate, cleared his throat. Laura, Nathan founded this company. Surely there's a way to... The vote's been prepared, Olivia interrupted, sliding folders across the table. All in favor of streamlining the executive structure? Hands rose, some eager, some hesitant. Richard abstained, his jaw tight. The rest sided with Laura. Motion passes, Laura announced, satisfaction glinting in her eyes. Nathan, HR will handle the paperwork. Nathan stood, buttoning his blazer. The room tensed, expecting a protest, a plea. Instead, he gathered his notebook and pen, his movements deliberate. "Fine," he said, his voice steady. "Fire me." He walked toward the door, feeling their stares like pinpricks. At the threshold, he paused, turning slightly. A faint smile curved his lips, not anger, not defeat, but something sharper. "Good luck," he said, and left. Behind him, the boardroom buzzed with uneasy murmurs. Laura's composure flickered, a shadow of doubt crossing her face. She'd won, but Nathan's calm unnerved her. Nathan's queen and home was silent that evening, the city's glow filtering through glass walls. He stood in his study, a space untouched by Laura's designer touch, with shelves, worn leather chair, a locked safe in the corner. The knife from last night's cooking sat on the desk, its handle a reminder of artisan cook's early days. He poured a bourbon, the amber liquid catching the light, and dialed a number. "Nathan," came a warm, weathered voice. Alice Thorne, his mentor since his days as a broke chef, answered. At 68, she was a financial sage who'd guided him through artisan cook's infancy. "It happened, didn't it?" "They voted me out," Nathan confirmed, his tone even. Laura led the charge. Alice sighed. "I warned you about her ambition." "You did." Nathan unlocked the safe, revealing stacks of documents. "But I listened to your other advice too." He spread the papers across the desk, filings for Silver Peak LLC, Ironcrest Ventures, Dawn Forge Equities. For 9 years, since Laura's first hint of wanting to rebrand him out, Nathan had been buying artisan cook stock through shell companies. Quietly, methodically, he'd amassed control while playing the supportive founder. 92%, he said, flipping to the latest report. "Voting shares." Alice whistled. "You've been busy. How does it feel?" Nathan's gaze fell on a framed photo, him and Laura at Artisan Cook's first store opening, both smiling, her arm around his waist. The memory felt like a bruise. "It feels like the beginning," he said. "Careful, Nathan," Alice cautioned. "This isn't just business anymore. It's personal." It became personal when she decided to erase me from my own company. He closed the folder. "What's next?" "Patience," Alice replied. "Let her think she's won. Then strike clean." Nathan nodded, draining his bourbon. The plan was simple but ruthless. Control the stock, undermine Laura's reckless expansion, and reclaim Artisan Cook when her house of cards collapsed. She'd build her empire on flash, celebrity endorsements, cheap materials, hollow promises. Nathan would rebuild it on truth. Later, he drove to Pike Place Market, the city alive with evening crowds. The Emerald Brew Cafe was tucked in an alley, its windows fogged from the chill. Nathan chose a corner table, ordered a black coffee, and waited. At 7:15, Aiden Reed arrived, his hoodie frayed, his eyes wary. The kid looked like he'd aged a decade since yesterday's humiliation. "Thanks for coming," Nathan said, standing. Aiden hesitated. "Then Saturday, your assistant didn't say much." "Why am I here?" Nathan slid a folder across the table. "Open it." Aiden flipped it open, revealing sketches, knives, pans, tools with elegant, functional lines. His brow furrowed, then cleared as he traced a chef's knife design. "These aren't Artisan Cook," he said. "No," Nathan confirmed. "They're for Forgecraft, my new company." Aiden's head snapped up. "You're starting over?" "Starting better," Nathan corrected. Artisan Cook lost its soul. "I'm building something honest, handcrafted, sustainable, built to last. I want you as head designer." Aiden laughed, disbelieving. "Me? I'm the guy who cost you $1 million. "You're the guy who designed our top-selling knife handles last quarter," Nathan said. "Laura to credit, but I know your work." Aiden stared at the sketches, his fingers lingering on the paper. "Why trust me?" "Because you're hungry," Nathan said, leaning forward. "And because you know what it's like to be betrayed." Silence hung between them. Aiden's jaw tightened, and he extended his hand. "When do I start?" Nathan shook it, feeling the first piece of his plan lock into place. Laura thought she'd buried him, but Nathan Keller was just getting started. And when he struck, she'd never see it coming. Seattle's rain-slicked streets glistened under sodium lights as Nathan Keller drove through Belltown, the city's pulse a quiet hum beneath his thoughts. It had been 2 weeks since Laura ousted him from Artisan Cook, and the corporate world buzzed with whispers of his retirement. But Nathan was far from finished. At 42, he moved with the precision of a man who'd spent years sharpening his edge, and tonight, that edge was aimed at dismantling Laura's empire from the shadows. His first stop was a nondescript warehouse in Georgetown, its faded sign reading Storage Unit 47. Inside, the space was a craftsman's haven, polished workbenches, racks of specialized tools, prototypes of knives and pans gleaming under LED lights. Aiden Reed, now 26 and shedding his corporate polish for a flannel shirt, stood at a bench, tweaking a skillet's handle design. The kid's nervous energy had morphed into focus since Nathan hired him for Forgecraft, the new venture built to rival Artisan Cook. Balance is better, Aiden said, holding up the skillet. Redistributed the weight for a smoother grip. Nathan tested it, nodding. Good eye. This is what Artisan Cook forgot, tools that feel like an extension of the hand. Aiden hesitated, then asked, any word from Laura's camp? Nathan's jaw tightened. She's doubling down. Watched the Lux line yesterday, copper-plated, gold accents, all flash. Social media is eating it up. Will it sell? Aiden's voice held a mix of awe and disdain. For now, Nathan said, setting the skillet down. But she's cutting corners, cheaper alloys, rush production. It'll collapse under scrutiny. He moved to a table covered with supply chain maps, each marked with red and green highlights. Laura's Artisan Cook relied on 3 key suppliers: Pacific Steelworks for raw materials, Global Forge for manufacturing, and Cascade Logistics for distribution. Nathan had spent years cultivating relationships with their executives, and now he was leveraging them. Quietly, he'd offered Pacific Steelworks a better deal through a shell company, siphoning their best stock. Global Forge, frustrated by Laura's late payments, was open to new clients, Forgecraft among them. Cascade was the next target. You're choking her supply lines, Aiden said, studying the map. Leverage, Nathan corrected. When her Lux line fails, customers won't forgive. Neither will investors. Aiden's brow furrowed. This feels personal. Nathan met his gaze, unflinching. It is. But it's also right. Artisan Cook was about quality once. Laura's turning it into a scam. The younger man nodded slowly, returning to his work. Nathan checked his watch, time for his next move. At Pike Place Market, the Emerald Brew Cafe was crowded with evening chatter. Nathan sat in a corner booth, a black coffee steaming before him. Across the table, Elena Voss, a wiry 50-year-old logistics broker with a reputation for discretion, sipped her latte. She'd been Nathan's silent ally for years, funneling information about Artisan Cook's supply chain. Cascade's wavering, Elena said, sliding a flash drive across the table. Laura's team missed 2 deadlines. They're open to a counteroffer, say, 15% above her rates. Nathan pocketed the drive. Done. Routed through Ironcrest Ventures. No links to me. Elena raised an eyebrow. You're playing a dangerous game. Laura's got eyes everywhere, Olivia Grant sniffing around, asking about stock purchases. Let her sniff, Nathan said. She won't find anything. Not yet. Elena leaned back, her expression a mix of admiration and caution. You've got 92% of Artisan Cook's shares. Why not pull the trigger now? Because timing matters, Nathan replied. Laura needs to overextend, push the Lux line, burn her bridges. When she falls, it has to be public. Elena smirked. Cold-blooded. Alice taught you well. Nathan's lips twitched. Alice Thorne, his mentor, had drilled one lesson into him. A blade cuts cleanest when the target doesn't see it coming. He drained his coffee and stood. Keep me posted on Cascade. Later that night, Nathan's phone buzzed as he reviewed Forgecraft designs in his queen and study. A text from Julian Chin, Artisan Cook's marketing strategist and a reluctant informant. Asterisk Lux pre-orders hit 50K. Laura's signing Kevin Stark tomorrow, big influencer deal. She's all in. Asterisk. Nathan set the phone down, picturing Laura's triumphant smile. Kevin Stark, a 30-year-old Food Network star with millions of Instagram followers, was her latest coup. The Lux Line's launch party was tomorrow, an exclusive event at a downtown rooftop bar, dripping with Seattle's elite. Laura and Kevin would pose for cameras, selling overpriced pans to a generation chasing clout. But Nathan knew the truth. The Lux Line's materials were subpar. The manufacturing rushed. Consumer reviews would bury it. He opened his laptop, pulling up a secure server. Files from his shell companies Silver Peak, Ironcrest, Dawn Forge detailed his stock acquisitions. 9 years ago, Laura's casual remark about redefining the brand had sparked his plan. With Alice's guidance, he bought shares through proxies, staying invisible while Laura chased headlines. Now, at 92% ownership, he held Artisan Cook's fate in his hands. A knock at the study door startled him. Laura stood there, her silk robe loose, a glass of Pinot Noir in hand. Working late? She asked, her tone deceptively light. Always, Nathan said, closing the laptop. Her eyes narrowed, searching his face. You've been quiet since the board meeting. No tantrums, no lawsuits. It's not like you. Nathan stood, crossing to a shelf of old prototypes, a knife, a saucepan, relics of artisan cook's soul. Maybe I'm just moving on. Laura laughed, sharp and hollow. Moving on? You're Nathan Keller. You live for this company. Or at least, you used to. He turned, meeting her gaze. And you live for the spotlight. Careful, Laura. It burns out fast. Her smile faltered, but she recovered, stepping closer. The Lux line's a hit. Kevin Stark's on board. We don't need your brooding craftsman act anymore. Then you've got nothing to worry about, Nathan said, his voice low, steady. Laura studied him, sensing a trap but unable to see it. She turned, wine sloshing slightly, and left without another word. Nathan waited until her footsteps faded, then reopened the laptop. A new email from Elena. * Cascade deal secured. They're yours. *. The next evening, Nathan stood across from the rooftop bar, shadows cloaking him as he watched Laura's launch party unfold. Through the glass, she glowed in a sequin dress, Kevin Stark at her side, his influencer charm dialed to 11. Cameras flashed as they demoed a Lux pan, flipping pancakes for a cheering crowd of influencers and investors. Aiden, beside Nathan, shifted uneasily in his jacket. This feels like spying, Aiden muttered. Recon, Nathan corrected, his eyes on Laura. She's betting everything on this. Let her. Aiden glanced at the party. They look untouchable. Looks are her specialty, Nathan said. But the Lux line's brittle literally. Wait for the reviews. As Laura raised a glass for a toast, her laughter carried faintly to the street. Nathan's phone buzzed. Julian again. * material tests failed on 30% of Lux units. Laura's pushing to ship anyway. *. Nathan's lips curved slightly. Laura was accelerating her own downfall, and he was ready to capitalize. He turned to Aiden. Let's go. Forgecraft's first prototype run starts tomorrow. They walked away, the city's hum swallowing the party's noise. Nathan's plan was in motion, suppliers secured, shares locked, a new brand rising. Laura thought she'd won, but Nathan was playing a longer game. And when he struck, it would cut clean. The artisan cook atrium sparkled like a corporate crown jewel, its marble floors reflecting the glow of video walls showcasing Luxline promos. Seattle's elite, investors, influencers, board members mingled under crystal chandeliers, their chatter a low hum of anticipation. It was the annual shareholders' meeting, and Laura Keller, 38, stood at the entrance, a vision in a crimson dress that matched the company's logo. Her smile was flawless, her handshake warm, but her eyes darted, calculating every interaction. She was about to cement her reign, or so she thought. Beside her, Olivia Grant, marketing chief, whispered updates. Berkshire Group's here, 7% voting block. They're rattled by the Lux delays, but I've got Kevin Stark demoing the chef's knife to smooth them over. Perfect, Laura murmured, nodding to a passing investor. Attendance? 90%, Olivia replied, checking her tablet. Should we start? Wait 5 minutes, Laura said. I want every seat filled when I announce the new era. Across the room, Julian Chin, Artisan Cook's marketing strategist, approached, his expression tight. Laura, Lux pre-orders are 35% below target. In Tokyo's shipment, 40% failed quality control. Laura's smile didn't waver, though her grip on her clutch tightened. Adjust the marketing spin. Blame supply chain glitches. Fix it, Julian. He nodded, melting back into the crowd. Laura scanned the room, noting the absence of Nathan Keller, her soon-to-be ex-husband. She'd expected him to stay away, licking his wounds after she'd ousted him. Good. This was her stage now. As the crowd settled into rows facing the presentation stage, Laura took the podium, spotlights bathing her in golden light. Welcome to Artisan Cook's annual shareholders meeting, she began, her voice projecting confidence. Tonight, we unveil our future, a brand that's not just cookware, but a lifestyle. The screens behind her flashed images, Lux pans in sleek kitchens, Kevin Stark grinning on Instagram, sales charts trending up. Our social media reach has tripled, our influencer partnerships are unmatched, and Lux is redefining premium. The audience nodded, some clapping. Laura's chest swelled. This was her moment. But then, the rear doors swung open. Footsteps echoed, deliberate and unhurried. Heads turned, murmurs rippling. Nathan Keller, 42, walked up the center aisle, his black suit tailored to precision, his expression calm but resolute. Behind him followed Alice Thorne, his 68-year-old mentor, carrying a leather portfolio and 3 attorneys with document cases. The room's energy shifted, A storm gathering. Laura's smile froze, then recovered. Nathan, she said into the mic, her tone light but strained. What a surprise. Joining us after all. Nathan reached the stage's base, his voice clear without amplification. Don't let me interrupt. You were sharing your vision. Tension crackled. Laura gestured to Olivia. Let's move to financials. Actually, Nathan cut in, ascending the steps. I'd like to propose a motion for immediate consideration. He faced the room, ignoring Laura's glare. As a shareholder, I move for a vote on leadership re-election and board restructuring. Olivia stepped forward, tablet clutched like a shield. This isn't on the agenda. It's exactly the time, Nathan said, his calm slicing through her protest. Alice handed him a folder, which he opened on the podium. A technician passed him a remote, and the screen switched to an organizational chart. Laura laughed, sharp and amplified. Nathan, you're embarrassing yourself. You don't have the votes. Nathan's eyes met hers, steady, unyielding. I believe I do. The chart glowed. Artisan Cook's ownership, 20% institutional, 30% board, 50% public. Nathan clicked the remote, and colors shifted. Silver Peak LLC in blue, Ironcrest Ventures in green, Dawnforge Equities in yellow. Over the past decade, he said, his voice even, I've acquired controlling interest through investment vehicles. As of today, I hold 92% of Artisan Cook's voting shares. The room gasped. Laura stared at the screen, color draining from her face. That's impossible, she whispered. I'd have known. Would you? Nathan asked quietly. You never cared for details, filings, contracts. Too tedious. Olivia stammered. These documents need verification. Verified. Alice interjected, her authoritative tone silencing doubts. As former CFO and compliance consultant, I confirm their accuracy. The attorneys began distributing packets to board members, each page a nail in Laura's coffin. Laura's composure cracked. This is absurd. Our marital assets are separate. As outlined in our prenup, Nathan finished, which excludes all business shares and royalties. Page 5, Section 9, Paragraph 2. Your signature's on page 30. Whispers erupted. Laura's eyes darted to the exit, then back to Nathan. You planned this, she hissed, voice low but trembling. All along. Not from the start, Nathan said, addressing the room again. Only when you decided Artisan Cook's values, quality, integrity, were disposable. He turned to the shareholders. I call for an immediate vote. Restructure leadership and the board, effective now. Hands rose, some reluctant, others swift. The math was undeniable. 92% was checkmate. Motion carries, Nathan announced. Laura stood frozen, her knuckles white on the podium. You can't, she said, voice barely audible. We built this together. Did we? Nathan's tone was professional, distant. Or did you build your brand on my work? Her eyes blazed. I'm still your wife. A detail soon corrected. Nathan nodded to an attorney, who handed Laura a folder. Divorce papers, with a copy of the prenup. You might want to review it this time. Laura flipped through, hands shaking. This can't be right. It's airtight, Nathan said. You signed it 10 years ago, too busy planning the wedding to read. From the audience, Kevin Stark stood, confused. Laura, what's happening? Sit down, Mr. Stark, Nathan said, not looking away from Laura. This is a shareholders' meeting, not your photo op. Kevin hesitated, then sank back, glancing at an attorney, already calculating his exit. Laura's face tightened, betrayal stacking on betrayal. You'll regret this, she spat, voice low. I made Artisan Cook famous. The connections, the deals. Connections that'll fade without Artisan Cook's resources, Nathan countered. But don't worry. I've planned the transition. He faced the crowd. Effective immediately, Laura Keller is terminated for negligence and brand damage. Julian Chin will assume interim CEO duties. Julian rose, nodding respectfully as he took the stage. I'm honored, he said. Artisan Cook will return to craftsmanship and integrity. Laura stared at Julian, betrayed again. You were my right hand. Never yours, Julian replied softly. The company's. Nathan gestured to the back, where Aidan Reed stood, confidence replacing his old fear. Aidan Reed joins as head of product development, bringing designs that honor our roots. The irony wasn't lost. Laura's humiliated designer, now her replacement's ally. Her facade shattered. This is revenge, she snapped. A personal vendetta dressed as business. No, Nathan said, his voice firm. This is correction. He turned to the room. Artisan cook will rebuild. No gimmicks, just quality. Olivia tried to intervene. Perhaps we should adjourn. One more thing, Nathan interrupted. Olivia Grant, your role as marketing chief is terminated. Sophia Reyes, with 15 years in sustainable manufacturing, steps in. Sophia, poised in a navy suit, walked forward, greeted by stunned board members. Laura gathered her things, fury in every motion. You'll hear from my lawyers. I expect it, Nathan said. Security will escort you out. 2 guards appeared. Laura paused at the door, Kevin's abandonment the final blow. She pushed through, gone. Nathan faced the shareholders. Now, let's rebuild Artisan Cook. The room exhaled, a new era dawning. Seattle's spring sun-bathed Pike Place Market in golden light, the air alive with the scent of coffee and salt water. 6 months had passed since Nathan Keller reclaimed Artisan Cook, and today marked a new chapter. The first Forgecraft store stood nestled among the market's eclectic shops, its facade of warm wood and brushed steel inviting passers-by to pause. Inside, the space hummed with purpose, shelves lined with handcrafted knives, pans, and tools, each piece a testament to Nathan's vision of honest craftsmanship. Customers ran their fingers over smooth handles, marveling at the balance, while staff demonstrated a chef's knife slicing effortlessly through herbs. Nathan, now 42, walked through the store, his dark sweater a contrast to the corporate suits he'd once worn. At his side was Aidan Reed, 26, whose designs had shaped Forgecraft's debut line. Aidan's confidence had grown, his old hesitance replaced by pride as he watched a customer test a skillet's weight. First run sold out in 3 hours, Aidan said, barely containing his grin. Waiting list for the next batch is already a month long. Nathan nodded, satisfaction in his eyes. Feedback. Customers love the knife grips, Aidan replied. They say it feels like the tools were made for their hands. One chef called the Santoku a game changer. That's what happens when you design for function, not flash, Nathan said, pausing to observe a young couple admiring a cast iron pan. Their appreciation was genuine, a far cry from the hype-driven frenzy of Artisan Cook's Luxe era. Forgecraft wasn't just a brand, it was a promise kept. Aidan glanced around, his voice lowering. Still no word from Laura? Nathan's expression remained steady. She's out of the picture. Focus on what's ahead. They continued through the store, stopping to chat with customers. A chef testing a paring knife praised its balance. A home cook raved about the skillet's heat distribution. The atmosphere was warm, authentic, everything Artisan Cook had lost under Laura's reign. Nathan felt a quiet certainty. This was the legacy he'd meant to build. Later that afternoon, Nathan visited Artisan Cook's redesigned headquarters in South Lake Union. Gone was the cold minimalism of Laura's tenure, replaced by exposed brick, natural wood, and open workspaces that invited collaboration. In the product development lab, designers tinkered with prototypes for the rebranded core collection, each piece subjected to rigorous tests for durability and user experience. Chefs in the test kitchen put pans through real-world trials, their feedback shaping the next iteration. Julian Chin, now interim CEO, met Nathan by the lab's entrance, tablet in hand. At 35, Julian's quiet competence had steadied Artisan Cook through its rebirth. Q1 numbers are in, he reported. Profits down 12% from last year, expected, given the Luxe fallout, but customer satisfaction's up 65%. Returns are under 1.5%. Short-term hit, long-term gain, Nathan said, watching a designer adjust a saucepan's curve. The brand's healing. Julian nodded. Social media is buzzing with praise for the new line. People are calling it Artisan Cook's comeback. Stock's up 15% since Sophia Reyes joined the board. Sophia, the new operations head, had brought discipline to manufacturing, rooting out the shortcuts Laura had normalized. Nathan's restructuring, reinstating quality control, honoring artisans, had restored trust. But the scars of Laura's era lingered in delayed shipments and wary investors, a reminder of how close the company had come to ruin. And Laura? Nathan asked, his tone neutral. Julian's lips quirked. Bankruptcy filed last week. Her influencer deals collapsed when Kevin Stark bailed. He's trashing her in interviews, claiming she misled him on Luxe's quality. Nathan absorbed this without reaction, his gaze on a chef testing a wok's balance. And her legal challenge? Dismissed, Julian said. The prenup held, judge called it ironclad. She's got nothing left to fight with. Nathan nodded once. The matter closed. Laura's downfall wasn't vengeance, it was consequence. She bet everything on image, and when the Lux line's flaws surfaced, cracking coatings, uneven heating, she'd lost her allies. Consumer Reports had torn the line apart, and social media amplified the backlash. Laura Keller, once Seattle's darling, was now a cautionary tale. Evening found Nathan in his private workshop, a small space tucked behind Forgecraft's store. Surrounded by tools and raw materials, he felt grounded, the chaos of the past fading. A half-finished knife blade lay on the bench, its steel waiting to be shaped. Alice Thorne, his 68-year-old mentor, stood nearby, examining a prototype pan with her usual critical eye. "Nice weight," Alice said, setting it down. "You haven't lost your touch." "Some things don't fade," Nathan replied, rolling up his sleeves. He selected a steel blank, the familiar ritual of blade-making calming his mind. Alice watched him work, her voice thoughtful. "Artisan Cook's back on track. Forgecraft's thriving. You did what you set out to." "Not quite," Nathan said, heating the steel. "I'm not just fixing what Laura broke. I'm building something that'll outlast me." She smiled, leaning against the bench. "Restoration, not revenge. I taught you well." "You taught me precision," Nathan corrected, his hammer striking the glowing metal with measured force. "Cut once, cut clean." Alice's eyes softened. "You're ahead of where you started, Nathan. What's next?" He paused, the blade taking shape under his hands. "Expand Forgecraft, small batches, artisan focus. For Artisan Cook, streamline production without losing quality. Hire more designers like Aiden, people who get it." "And you?" Alice pressed. "What do you want?" Nathan looked at the blade, its edge beginning to emerge. "To create. To leave something real." They worked in companionable silence, the forge's heat a quiet rhythm. Outside, Seattle glittered, its skyline a canvas of possibility. Nathan thought of Laura's final days, her desperate interviews, her empty threats, and felt no malice, only clarity. She'd chosen her path, and he'd chosen his. The next morning, Nathan stood at Forgecraft's counter, handing a customer a wrapped knife set. The store buzzed with early shoppers, Aiden demoing a saucepan to a local chef. Julian texted an update. Artisan Cook's new campaign, Crafted True, was trending, with pre-orders doubling projections. The numbers were a start, but Nathan's focus was elsewhere, on the weight of a blade, the feel of a handle, the trust of a customer. He stepped outside, the market alive with vendors and laughter. A breeze carried the sound salt tang, and Nathan inhaled deeply, feeling lighter than he had in years. Laura's shadow was gone, her empire of hype crumbled. Artisan Cook was his again, Forgecraft a bold new spark. Both stood for something enduring: craftsmanship, integrity, truth. Nathan's phone buzzed, a photo from Aiden, showing a packed demo kitchen. He smiled, pocketing it. The past was forged into lessons, the future into tools. He walked toward the water, the city's pulse in sync with his own. For the first time in a decade, Nathan Keller wasn't just surviving, he was building, blade by blade, a legacy that would hold. Let me know in the comments, what would you do if you found yourself in the shoes of the main characters, caught in a web of betrayal and revenge?